Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 343. I am Brendan. UFC 294, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, number 2. We're going to talk about that fight. We're going to break it down. We're going to cover the whole main card here. Real quick, if you like that kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. That way you know the next video is coming out. I'd super appreciate it. Timestamps are down below for each fight. Let's talk about how this went. Quick. All right. We will get into the stats, I promise. Little comment about the card as a whole. I might mention it again in my next video, but first of all, the production team on the, I don't know if it's the UFC who brought them there. I don't know if it's a local production team. Whoever was on the horn, you're horrible. The horn was awful. I don't know if they got the discount one from wish.com or whatever it was. It was bad. Listen to them. Like, they had to address it. Anik made fun of it multiple times. At one point, he was like, hey, we're having some horn issues here. That is not a dying goose. That signifies the end of the round. Second, the fans over in Abu Dhabi are so biased, it's unbelievable. And I don't mean that they can't have country favoritism. That's fine. In fact, I would expect that. Why wouldn't you? Right? All the Muslim fighters who are fighting on the card, big pop from the crowd. Absolutely. No qualms about that. I have no problem with people representing their own people and then those people getting super excited about it. That happens everywhere. You're going to see it anytime you go to any place. You're going to see this national pop, right? This national pride, or like, it's not nation, but this unified pride, like religious pride. Okay. Absolutely fine. What I don't like is when their bias takes over their booing when it comes to what's happening in the fight. I'll give you an example. If a fighter got taken down, you could know which fighter got taken down without even looking. If the fighter, if the Muslim fighter got taken down, you would hear boos from the crowd. People like, ooh, boo, this is boring, this sucks. If the non-Muslim fighter got taken down, you hear, wow, woo! At least in Mexico, they boo everybody from taking them down. They don't care. In Mexico, I still think Mexico has the worst fans that I've ever seen, right? Throwing bottles and shit, that's unacceptable. That's crazy. But at least they boo at everybody for taking people down. They hate watching wrestling. In Abu Dhabi, like, they understand grappling, hopefully, and it just happened to be that they're freaking dude, it was like, I swear, I even turned away once during one of these matches, and I could tell who was being taken down, not who was winning the fight, who was being taken down. And then last little note about this card, and then we'll get into the fight here. What the fuck was with the lack of discipline on this card from all parties? It was horrible. We'll talk about it as the fights come up and as we get to them. But the amount of fouls, the amount of egregious things that were being done, and the lack of penalties for them, unbelievable. And the doctor that had to come, who the fuck is that guy? Get him out of there. This was horrible. I hope Dana has a shit fit over all this stuff. All right. Let's talk about Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, number 2. Okay. This fight, it was more measured this time, right? Sorry. Trying to pull these up for you guys. It was pretty measured this time. The low kicks were the only thing that really landed for either fighter within the first minute, right? Makhachev was failing. He failed on the first takedown attempt. Volkanovski says, Volkanovski reverses the position. And then DC was on one. I don't know if he trains with a lot of these guys. I don't know what it was on this whole card, but he was on one that night. He had the gall to say that Islam wanted to be pushed up against the fence because Volkanovski reverses positions. And while Volkanovski reverses positions in the clinch against the fence, DC's going off about how, this is what Islam wants. Makhachev wants to be grappling like this because this tires out Volkanovski. I can guarantee you that Makhachev wasn't in the training room practicing being pushed up against the wall and holding on to the guy there and like, this is our game plan. This is what we want. I know what he was trying to do, but the thing is, when he started that statement of, oh, well, Makhachev wants to grapple, Makhachev was in control and then immediately gets reversed against the cage. So DC's like, well, I've got this verbal diarrhea coming out. Might as well just let it finish. What the heck, DC? Come on, man. Adjust to what's being said, being played out, right? Makhachev landed a really nice left straight in here. Makhachev glanced a left high kick, and Volkanovski goes down. Like, he gets wobbled and goes down. He clearly wasn't out, okay? It's a TKO finish, and before anybody starts writing in the comments, this was a good stoppage. There is no problem with the stoppage here. He was not able to defend himself. Whether you're knocked off balance or you're knocked out, knocked unconscious, if you're not actively defending yourself and you're just taking unmitigated punches like that, you can't argue with it. It was a good stoppage. Makhachev with a really good game plan using that high kick. He used it earlier in the fight and partially landed. It's tough. This is a tough break for Volkanovski, stepping up on short notice. And I don't know if he had the game plan when he was going in. I don't know if he had I don't know leading into this how he would adjust from the last fight, because if he had a full camp of adjusting for Islam, I think he could have come in with a better game plan. But I think going forward, it's going to be a tall task. I think Makhachev underestimated him the first time, and then going forward, it's just going to be a rough fight for Volkanovski if they end up meeting again. That being said, no, you know what? I'm not talking about it. I'm not doing the pound for pound fighter bullshit again. I don't care. We're not talking about that. It's not important. Let's just move on with our lives. Let's talk about stuff that actually matters. Like relatively boring fight, but interesting in its outcome. Kamaru Usman taking on Khamzat Chimaev. Now, this fight is interesting for a multitude of reasons. Okay, one, Usman stepped up on short notice. He was also another guy who stepped up on short notice. This was at 185. Okay. By the way, Paulo Costa, do you think, I wonder what Chimaev would have done with Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is a big motherfucker. And he would have had problems with Usman. Now, Usman, I would argue, has better wrestling fundamentals, and that might be why he was able to do what he did. Let's talk about it. The other reason why this is interesting, they have both, obviously, Usman was the former 170 champion, and Chimaev is a 170 pounder sometimes. I don't know what they're talking about when they talk about title shots for Chimaev. They're going to give him 185. Is he going to go back down to 170? Is he not allowed to fight at 170 anymore? I can't stand it. Anyway, this fight could have taken place in a similar circumstance, right? With both fighters relative size-wise at 170 for the title. And how this played out, especially from what we saw, I think Usman would have beat Chimaev over 5 rounds at 170 pounds. Let's talk about the fight. Chimaev in on a single, diving in on it hard and using it to get to the back. He controlled the rest of this round, right? Chimaev landing little shots and searching for the rear naked choke periodically. Chimaev on the standing backpack, and Usman slams him on his head, and Chimaev keeps keeping the back through that position. You can give this round a 10-8. Chimaev couldn't get the finish, which was kind of shitty, right? He only landed 16 significant strikes, but he had 4 minutes and 35 seconds of control time. Usman landed 3 strikes while they were standing up, I'm pretty sure. Those were 2 punches and then 1 to the body. But the point is, Chimaev gets a 10-8 for this round. I would give it a 10-8. Next round here, Usman landing a nice jab after feinting the takedown, a nice body kick from Chimaev. But man, for all that shit talk that Chimaev has, he seems to be pretty tentative after that first round. So I think he gassed himself out. He thought he'd be able to get Usman out of there. And we saw this happen with Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert Burns just kept throwing himself into the fire, and getting caught himself. It's interesting. Usman started landing some nice shots in this round, a nice 1-2 and a low kick from Usman. Chimaev shoots a double with 40 seconds left and falls into a headlock. He gets out of the headlock with 7 seconds left, and that's Usman's round for sure, right? This round was his for sure. Usman outstruck him 11-9, landed the bigger shots, right? Chimaev landed a couple shots in this round, but they were not really hard damaging shots. That 1-2 from Usman was the best thing that landed in this entire round. I wrote down there's no way the judges are going to give him this, but it should be 19-18. Let me explain, because there's a lot of bullshit that we're going to go through on this card. This video might end up going long. I apologize for that. So stick with me. Like I said, if you're done hearing about this, go to the next one if you want to hear about the other controversies that happened on the main card. But what I want to talk about is Usman had the best strikes in this round. Chimaev had 40 seconds of control time. There was no 40 seconds of control time. I will tell you that. Go back and watch this fight. Whether he was in it's not a guillotine attempt because Usman didn't have his legs wrapped around. He had no control of Chimaev's body, so he wasn't able to put a crank on him. But Chimaev was in a headlock. He wasn't doing anything offensive. In fact, still technically you could get a finish from that position. It's highly unlikely, but you could get a guillotine-like finish from that side control. But you could get it, okay? I've seen it happen. I know what it feels like. And here's the thing. Chimaev was stuck in it until 7 seconds left. He did nothing offensive with his takedown. So therefore, he loses this round. Last round. This is important. So 19-18 going to the last round. Chimaev dives in for a low single. Misses bad. A nice 1-2 from Usman, and Chimaev overextends. Chimaev lands the right hand, but takes 2 in return. Usman starting to use that jab and put it on Chimaev. And I wrote down, I was like, he is the better fighter. It's not even close. He's more technical. His wrestling is really good. Chimaev is probably the better, he's probably the stronger guy in there. He's a bigger dude. But Chimaev is really sloppy when he gets tired. He shoots a double at 225 and he gets the takedown. And then they get back up with 30 seconds left. Usman lands some really good shots on the stretch. And I said, if you go damage, this is Usman's round. Look at the striking numbers here. 22-13. Chimaev did nothing with the takedown. He was on top for 2 minutes and did 0 damage. Look at the ground strikes in this last round. They landed 1 each. Same in the second round, right? They landed 1 each. So there are no ground strikes. Just discount that. He did nothing but have position for 2 minutes. No damage, no submission attempts. He did nothing. He took damage in that round. He should have lost that. Let's look at the scorecards because Chimaev ends up getting the majority decision. Derek clearly gave the last round to Chimaev. He gave the second round to Usman, so I'll give him credit for that. But he gave the last round to Chimaev. Obviously, the first round, Chimaev's 10-8 across the board. Easy peasy. Definitely. Derek clearly thought that because Chimaev was sitting on top of him for 2 minutes, that made the difference because the damage must have been equal in his mind. There's no way that Chimaev there's no way that Chimaev did anything with that grappling position that counts for damage. David Letheby had it scored 28-28 for the draw. I agree with that. That makes sense. And then Vita Paulilo gave the last round to Usman, but the second round to Chimaev, which makes less sense to me because I figure if he was satting on him, this should have been a majority draw, right? I think this, regardless of the official outcome, I think this does put a little bit of a stoppage to the hype on Chimaev. I think it was not in question, but definitely slowed down after. Let's see, man, he's had his moments, and he's had these fun fights, like when he had against Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland. He gets to do the cool stuff again. But the thing is, when he fought Burns, everybody was like, okay, let's put it in perspective. He's really good. He belongs there, but he's not running through the best in the division. And I think this just proves it. This was 3 rounds. What do you think 2 more rounds look like when Usman had the gas and Chimaev didn't? All right. Let's talk about one that ended real stupid. This is not on the fighters. This is on the doctor. This horrible freaking doctor. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Walker starting in with the low kicks, landing a nice jab. Ankalaev landing a right hand. Ankalaev lands a really nice body shot, but Walker fakes that he's hurt and then attempts a flying knee. Ankalaev uses it to get on top next to the fence, and then he lands a knee while Walker is fully downed, right? Walker is fully down. There's no excuse for this knee. Ankalaev didn't try to pull him up, didn't try to do anything. He just knees him in the head. The doctor comes in, asks Walker some questions, and then 30 seconds later waves it off. Like 30 seconds into the break for the foul, waves off the fight. What the hell? This is the same doctor that screwed up earlier. We'll talk about that on the prelims. Dana White and both of the guys still wanted to fight, right? Both guys, Ankalaev and Walker, I don't know if they're talking shit. I don't know if they were just angry at each other. I don't know. Ankalaev clearly committed the foul. He has no excuse here. This ends up going in the books as a no contest. I don't know. This one should have been a DQ. He threw the knee to a clearly downed opponent. Now, it shouldn't have stopped, right? That they both wanted to continue fighting and all whatever. Maybe the doctor made a decision, and they said the reasoning behind it was like they asked him what round it was, or they asked him what it was, or where he was, and he didn't answer him right away. I'm going to be honest. If you're in a moment, like, you might not know where you are. You might not know you're in Abu Dhabi. You might not know it's round 1 or round 2. That might happen at any moment in the fight. So these questions, like, well, a good way to guide you of whether or not they're doing okay. He clearly was okay to keep fighting. Whatever. This was stupid. This was dumb. I feel bad for both of them. Dana White, I hope he goes off on a tirade on that doctor for being a shithead. More so for what he did earlier. We'll talk about that in the prelims, like I said. All right. Ikram Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves. This fight didn't last long, huh? Trading kicks at distance. Sorry. Oh, boy. Trading kicks at distance. The hooks from both guys really land. They land well. Aliskerov landing a hard right hand and then a jab that wobbles. That wobbles Alves, and then Aliskerov starts unloading and gets a TKO finish. They were talking, so this is one that I noticed that the commentary team didn't, right? So he landed a hard right hand, just this bomb of a right hand on Alves, and then the very next shot that he lands a couple seconds later is a jab. Now, was it a stiff jab? Yes. And then they're talking about, man, how hard must this guy hit that he rocked him with a jab? Not saying he doesn't hit hard. The damage came from the right hand. He was probably already out of it, and that left the jab is what set him over the edge. Okay. All right, let's get this last one in here, and we will call it Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. This fight did not last long either. All right, Gafurov moving forward, and they trade low kicks. Gafurov was doing okay as he was moving in, but Nurmagomedov catches him with a... Oh, Gafurov actually caught him with a hard hook, which is apparently the one strike he landed. No? Okay. All right. So apparently he didn't land that hook. He dove in on a takedown, and then he ends up getting guillotined. Nurmagomedov gets a quick finish there. Overall, if you did not buy this card, I wouldn't. This was not that fun to watch. It wasn't. You had a couple quick finishes. I mean, if you're a huge fan of someone on the card, I guess it's okay. If you really want, I'll let you make that decision. But if you're a casual fan just looking for some fun fights to watch, go watch last week's fights. go watch the prelims. I mean, those kind of suck too, but at least they're free. All right, that is it. Subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff. That way you know the next video is coming out. I appreciate you all for stopping by. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Love y'all.